Afternoon, everyone, and sorry for the delay. I am here to tell you about anatomy because until you know all the terminologies, how to identify them, how to see them, where to look for whatever you want to see, uh, you will not be able to understand the clinical aspect of it. So let's first begin with the anatomy of the cervix and what exactly is transformation zone.
मैम इसको पूरा कर ली पीपीटी आपने पूरा कर लिया
कर लिया।
एनलार्ज हाँ ये कर लीजिए
आ गया, विजिबल है अब आपको? इज इट विजिबल नाउ?
हाँ जी आप पूरा एनलार्ज होके आ गया
ठीक है, बढ़िया बढ़िया बढ़िया. So as we know, cervix is the fibromuscular organ seen at the mouth of the uterus. It's cylindrical in shape, continues above with the endometrial cavity and below with the vagina. It's approximately 2.5 centimeter in non-pregnant state and might enlarge to 7 centimeter depending on the previous obstetric history, collapse, etc. And the diameter at any given length is approximately 3 centimeter or more. So this size and shape, as I said, depends on the obstetrical history, the age of the patient, the hormones, and the parity of the patient. Generally, the anterior and posterior walls are closed. So there is no space in between the anterior and posterior wall. Laterally, we know at about 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock comes at the level of isthmus enters the uterine artery, and just below it are the ureters at 1 centimeter below. So they are in close proximity to the cervix. Posteriorly and superiorly are the uterine arteries. So what exactly do we mean when we talk of these terminologies as supravaginal portion? So any part of the cervix which is visible at the perspeculum examination is known as portio vaginalis, while the internal part which is in the abdominal cavity is known as the supravaginal portion of the cervix. When we say ectocervix, ectocervix is only the part which is overlying the portio vaginalis. The outer part which we see is portio, of the portio vaginalis is ectocervix, while the inner part which connects from the outer vaginal environment to the endometrium, this whole is known as the endocervical canal. So that is the endocervix. The os is the outermost opening of the endocervical canal. This can either be circular as seen in nulliparous or a prolonged slit-like fish mouth appearance in a multiparous. So just by looking at the os, we are able to tell whether she is a parous or a nulliparous woman. When we look at the blood supply, it is of importance to us because we must know where does the uterine artery enter. It enters at 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock. So when we have to give a paracervical block while performing some procedures on the cervix, we should avoid these two areas, which is at 3 and 9, so that we don't encounter the uterine artery or the descending branch which enters into the cervix. One word regarding the nervous supply to that. The endocervix actually has a lot of sensory as well as sympathetic supply. So because of that, whenever you do dilatation, that causes pain and that might lead to vasovagal. So in procedures where you don't involve any dilatation, the pain doesn't occur because the ectocervix, which is overlying the outer part of the cervix, that has almost nil sensory fibers. There are very few sympathetic fibers. So when we perform cervical biopsy or hold it with the help of a valcellum or do thermal coagulation, cryotherapy, these are very well tolerated because there are hardly any sensory blood supply to that area. Coming to the histology, our main crux of colposcopy is by doing the pap smear as well as the biopsy. So it's the histology which comes into our way, and we must understand all the terminologies used in the histology of the cervix. The squamous epithelium, which is the lining of the ectocervix, is a non-keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. And this is a little different from the vaginal epithelium because it lacks rete pegs. That is, those are the infoldings of the squamous epithelium are not there. This is under the influence of hormones, and the stratification also is with the glycogenation in those layers. That is, glycogen gets deposited into that, and that leads to glycogenation, which actually is a very important thing to understand, that whenever there is a squamous epithelium which is multi-layered and glycogenated, that is the one which will give a mahogany brown to the iodine, Lugol's iodine. So glycogenation is very important. Coming to the columnar epithelium, this is the lining of the endocervical canal. So this is a single layered tall columnar cells with a basal nucleus, and these are much shorter than the stratified squamous epithelium. They also get folded into the infoldings of those columnar glands, and they form gland or crypts which secrete mucus. They have a reserve cell in the basement membrane